are you in the UK and you're trying to figure out childcare costs? You've heard that it's so expensive, but you don't know what the options are. You don't know what the pricing most likely is going to be, and you also don't know what the funding options you can get from the government are. Then this video is for you. In this video, I'll be breaking down the different childcare options that you can find in the UK, how much they relatively cost, and the possible funding that you can receive from the government. So let's hop right to it. Hi guys, my name's Ayo and I'm a GP trainee currently on maternity leave, and I've actually been navigating these realities of childcare, and honestly it's been so shocking and I feel like I didn't have enough information. So I'm hoping this video can contribute to filling up that information gap. So first things first, I'll be talking about the different childcare options available. I'll start from the least common to the most common, and the least common at the moment I'll say is the au pair. And the au pair previously used to be like an individual that would come from Europe and would assist with your childcare needs, but then would also get boarding and some pocket money in exchange. So it was like you were helping this person to acclimatize to the English culture, and it was quite popular pre-Brexit, but now because of like the constraints with visa, it's no longer as common post-Brexit. The next option is the nanny, and this is someone who actually comes to care for your child in their own home, and this is beautiful because this is your child's home environment, and so it'd be easier to kind of move into that childcare arrangement without much stress, without much crying and all of that. But this actually comes at a huge cost because you're now acting as this person's employer. You're expected to make NI contributions for them as well as pension, and that could put it as an overall very heavy check. The second most common is the childminders, and they're becoming increasingly more popular because of the flexibility they afford for people with unusual work hours. And a childminder basically is a qualified and registered childcare professional who actually offers care to your child in their own home. So rather than in your own space, in your own home, you're coming to drop your child over in their own home, and then they're able to provide this childcare and supervision for your child during your working hours. The beautiful thing about them is because they're regulated by OFSTED, you can actually have a more holistic picture about the quality of care that they provide. So you can see childminders that are rated as outstanding or rated as good, and those would be the preferred option that people will go for. Apart from their flexibility, they're actually most times cheaper than the average nursery, which is one of the reasons why they are more preferred. Childminders also have to abide by the early years foundation stage statutory framework, so they also follow these rules. They also abide to that quality, so that's another reassuring factor. The most common option would be the day nurseries, and these are structured settings that provide childcare for children all the way from birth to about 5 years old, and the entire idea is that they provide early learning, socializing, and they also provide very good play environments for these children to thrive during the periods where you have to go to work. And the beautiful thing is that most of them are open from very convenient hours of about 7:30 to about 6. They have something called like an early bird, where you can drop your child earlier than about 8 or 9, where they regularly would open for an extra fee. And they also have a late hour one where you can actually like allow your child to be there for a little longer than the maybe average 5:30 that they would close, just maybe because you're in traffic, maybe because you have some work constraints for that particular day. So those are some good things that the day nurseries can offer, and the day nurseries are thoroughly regulated by OFSTED, so you can have an idea of what their rating is per time and kind of see the quality of care that they're able to offer to your young one to know whether you're entrusting your child into capable hands. For example, if you see an OFSTED rating of outstanding, obviously that person has gone above and beyond, or that facility has gone above and beyond the expectations of the average childcare setting. And if you see a rating of good, it means that they are operating at par. But anything less than that will make you raise suspicions as to what the loops or what the the issues are that were detected by OFSTED, and you can look deeper into that and see if that's something you're comfortable with. Now that we have an idea of the different formal childcare options, let's dive into the costs. So the first is the au pair, right? So the au pair actually has like a minimum wage that they can earn depending on their age group, so you can always check on the government website just to be sure about that. Second is the nanny. For the nanny, because you're paying their NI insurance and you're also paying their pensions, it's a bit more, so you should budget between £2,000 to about £3,000, or even more depending on the city that you live in. Next up, the childminders. Childminders are relatively more like affordable, so you can find childminders that are just starting out trying to build sort of like a reputation, and those ones might even be happy to take like £4 per hour or £4.5 per hour, and you can see as much as £7 per hour, £7.50 per hour from people who are more experienced and have very outstanding ratings from OFSTED. So that's like a very good range that they operate at, so you should be able to find someone that's comfortable for you in terms of the pricing. Then the nurseries, these are the big guns because they have so much that they have to put into making sure that each child is well catered for. I find that they're more expensive, and I have unfortunately not been able to find a nursery that's actually £50 per day or below. So most of the nurseries that I have seen so far are about £55 per day to, I think I've seen up to about £80 per day, and that range is actually more like it kind of paints a picture of the wider price range in the UK. So depending on the area that you're living in, you could have like maybe nurseries that are operating at about 50. I don't think I've seen anyone online that operates for less than 50. So about 50 to 80 is what I say like is the average range for you to find day nurseries operating at. Okay, so having heard the different costs, I'm sure you're looking at it and it's actually quite expensive, and I think for this reason the government has put funding in place to help to reduce the burden on parents. So there are two types of funding that the government offers, and the first is the tax-free childcare and the second is the funded hours. As at now, for 0 to 2 year olds, there's 15 hours funded per week from the government, but as at September 2025, it's going to increase to 30 funded hours per week, which is equal to what actually the 3 to 4 year olds get per week as their allowance as funded hours. Then the tax-free option actually reflects the government's desire to contribute £2,000 towards your childcare expense per year, and for every £8 that you pay, the government contributes a commensurate £2 up until £2,000 for the entire tax year. Bear in mind that with the funded hours, it only works during term time. So once the children are out of session in the big schools, these funded hours cannot work. But once they're back in session, your funded hours resume. So the question now is, do you qualify for the funded hours? So the first thing that you need to check for your eligibility is your child's age and circumstances. Is your child disabled? Is your child needing any extra support? That could actually mean that you qualify. So that's not necessarily like supposed to exclude you, but that could mean that you actually qualify for much more than the basic support that's expected. Then secondly, are you employed? Most likely if you're on a skilled worker visa and watching this video, you're employed. And then again, what's your income? So you need to meet the minimum wage requirement but not exceed 100,000 in that current tax year. So in the tax year that you're applying, if you're a sole applicant and if you and your partner are applying, both of you like individually should have like more than 100,000 net income in that particular tax year. Then lastly, your immigration status. I feel like this is where a lot of skilled workers are going to be disqualified because there are only very few skilled worker visas that allow you to have recourse to public funds. If you check on the back of your BRP, you would see if this is the case for you. But for most skilled workers, even within the NHS, you have no recourse to public funds, meaning that you cannot access these funded hours. I know it can be shocking and devastating and also quite expensive because by the time you think about a day nursery costing about 70 to 80 pounds or even as low as 60 to 80 pounds in the average city, you're probably going to be spending roughly around like 1,200 to 1,500 if you're going to go full time, and that could significantly have been discounted if you were given the funded hours or if you had access to the tax-free childcare. But I feel like when you have all your options in view and you're able to sort of scrutinize your own current living expenses and everything, you eventually find out an option that's kind of like comfortable, affordable and accessible to yourselves. But it's actually quite crushing. Anyways, I'll be discussing more about this in terms of like day nurseries because we eventually decided to go with a day nursery based on the fact that we really didn't know too many people to give us recommendations regarding childminders. It's one thing to see somebody's credentials on the screen and it's another thing to actually know them and to have that like to ask questions like from someone who has experienced the care that they have provided, and this person being someone that's close to you or someone that like you can trust. So it's really just a bit difficult working with the childminders at this point. Maybe in the future when we get to know more people in our area, or when we get to like know maybe a childminder personally, we might go for it. But I feel like it's a very beautiful option if you know people who have already attended that particular childminder's place, or you know people who actually like are childminders. I feel like that's even more brilliant. But in the meantime, we're going with a day nursery, and I've spent a lot of time kind of researching what you ought to ask or what you ought to check for when you're looking at a day nursery, and hopefully in my next video I'll be discussing that with yourselves so you can feel armed when you're going to look at nurseries. Because I felt like initially when I was going to look at nurseries, I was looking for the vibe, or I was looking for the chemistry, and while that is there, that's not like the major thing. There are other like objective things that you should look out for that will help you to put your mind at rest whenever you're going back to work, that you've done the thorough research that's necessary, and your child should be in capable hands. Anyways, I hope this video helped you, and if it did, please can you leave a like. It really helps this video reach more people. You can also leave a comment down below, maybe to encourage me or maybe to even inform us about something that I haven't said. And lastly, please subscribe, because there's so much more coming. I've been on a learning curve and it's been beautiful, and I'm hoping to share it with you all. All right then, take care, bye.